good evening. My name is Tiffany White, and thank you for joining the Tiffany White Show. I am here this evening to recap the State of the City for Columbus, Ohio's address that occurred on March 15th at noon. So let's get into it. I also have my sidekick, Devontae, to chime in where I miss out on hitting the highlights. First and foremost, I want to make sure that everyone knows that this platform is a platform for people to provide us with information of things that are going on in your community. And we're going to address the issues that are impacting our community. And so that's why I think this will be a great kickoff to that, because I want to make sure that your issues are being addressed and we're addressing them with the right individuals and getting them here, or we'll go there to get our concerns addressed. So let's get started. The beginning of the address started out speaking of, it sounds like really two key targets for the city this year, and that is housing and safety. And there were some things in there about kindergarten readiness, and we had some really good successes with Celebrate One. But really the big things were there will be a bond issue on the November ballot to address the affordable housing crisis. And the second thing are programs that will help reduce the violence in our communities. That is on the heels of the governor signing into law that there no longer is required to have a carry conceal permit, that you can carry a weapon, you don't need to have a permit, which for some folks they're like, that's great. For others, it's a little concerning when we know in our neighborhoods and in our communities, guns are being sold in alleys, behind schools, in drive-through places. It's happening everywhere. So that can make having a weapon even more dangerous for many of our members and our communities. We talked, the mayor talked about the COVID dollars and how they were spent over this pandemic. And a lot of dollars went to rental assistance, utility assistance, and some job creation with retraining. You could only submit your paperwork online, which for our older residents or those that are in the gap of the digital divide where they don't have the technology to do so, that was a barrier. Then there were others that are still waiting and have been waiting to get approved. So the longer you wait for your approval, the more your rents are going to be. There were also issues where landlords would not accept the funds. Even though they were free dollars, they refused to accept the funds. So that put a lot of our residents in a position where they had to relocate, which was unfortunate. The utilities were suspended for some time if you had City of Columbus utilities. However, that suspended time has since passed, and many folks are finding themselves being shut off. You can still apply for these funds, from what I understand. However,
Can I hop in right here?
Sure, hop in.
So with applying for the funds and things like that, I don't think that the mayor did enough. And yes, I'm actually calling in the mayor. I'm trying to be politically correct since this isn't my show here. But since the mayor, he never addressed that the poverty rate here in Columbus is 19.54%. And with that being said, out of that 19.54%, 29.69% of that is Black poverty, and white poverty makes up just 12.67%. And I don't think you could have the conversation about the affordability of Columbus and growing Columbus and putting bonds and levies on the ballot without first understanding that a good majority of your city and of your voting bloc is living in poverty. And yet we're still in a pandemic.
Correct. We are in the midst of the pandemic. I think that was a great point to bring up, because when we're talking about affordable housing, a lot of the developers are putting a certain number of units aside for that affordable housing demographic. Um, we are several thousands of units short in affordable housing. The stock just isn't there. You can't build yourself out of this problem. We need to make really good decisions on the type of employers that are in our city, what they're paying our employees. Columbus did grow, the state of Ohio did grow, but it grew in retail business, which means that you're not making a living wage. Yes, there are companies that are coming in, which he mentioned, Intel. There's a few things that I have concerns with that. Not that it's not a great thing to have, but how are our poor folks that are in poverty going to be able to get to work on time when they have to take multiple modes of transportation? Are they going to be um, given the same opportunities as someone that is degreed? They may have the technical experience, but they may not have the degree or certifications behind it. um, is there going to be equity as far as promotions? Those are the type of things that I think we just really need to keep an eye on once they do open. And for those young folks that are graduating this year with the Columbus Promise, going to Columbus State, when Columbus State came to our area commission a few years ago when they had an issue.
That's the North Central Area Commission, right?
Yes. When they had an issue on the ballot, we spoke of how many students that come into your doors are taking remedial classes. And unfortunately, the number was quite shockingly high. So, is that 2 years really 6 years of high school and you're just getting the basics that you need to be prepared for college? Or are you making sure that these young folks have what they need walking in the door? Are you going to provide them with free summer classes so that they can take their remedial? So, when the fall starts, they're ready to actually get into their field of study. Are we pushing them towards more technical type associate's degrees, or what are we doing? And then if they want to go further in their education, what does that look like? Because again, if they're taking advantage of the free college tuition, in many instances, they probably will not be able to pay for a 4-year college. And they may even be at the point where they're actually working and now don't qualify for the type of scholarships and financial aid that they would have had they went to a 4-year college to start with. So those are kind of the questions. The other question with the Columbus Promise that has been brought to me is, why not the charter schools? Why not the private schools?
So, what is the Columbus Promise?
The Columbus Promise is a collaboration between Columbus City Schools, the City of Columbus, and Columbus State. If you graduate this year from a Columbus City school, you will be able to enroll and attend Columbus State free of charge for 2 years.
Oh, so is that a new thing that the mayor and everybody just announced with Columbus State, basically?
Yes, it is. It is. So, folks have parents, I won't say folks, parents, guardians have made the decisions, have looked into what is the best fit for their child as far as their academic progress and success. And sometimes Columbus City Schools was not the school of choice for them, or the school of choice that they wanted for their child in the Columbus City School setting. They were waitlisted or never accepted for enrollment. So there are some things that we need to tweak and work on. And with that being said, not only will there be a bond issue, but there's also going to be an issue on the ballot in the future for Columbus City Schools to build new facilities that are going to be more state of the art and address the future of what employment looks like as far as the technology and things of that nature. So for our voters, and I really encourage people to look and make sure that A, you're still registered, and B, you have not been purged. I'm also a member of the NAACP, and several hundreds of folks have been purged from the voter rolls in Columbus, Ohio. So it's very, very important. If you've moved, make sure you've done a change of address. You may have changed your address on your license, but you need to make sure you make that change with the Board of Elections. You need to, if you're unable to vote, request that absentee ballot and look and research what these issues are and how they actually impact you. Or does this mean there's more coming out of your paycheck? Does this mean that the school that's being erected is going to be in your neighborhood? Does this mean that your child may be able to path to that school seamlessly? Those are all the questions that you should be asking, not only the city of Columbus, but also the Board of Education, Columbus Board of Education.
So somebody said in the comments just a moment ago that affordable housing really isn't affordable anymore. So why is it yet that kind of a piggybacking off of what Breeze here said?
Gotcha. I see it. Yeah. So, so the affordable housing component looks at 60% annual median income. And we know that $47,000 is about the median income in the city of Columbus. That's not any demographic, it's the median. Unfortunately, Devontae just went over those poverty numbers. Many, especially African Americans and people of color, fall well within that poverty mark. So you're not even going to be able to qualify for those homes. Um, the average median income for an African American in the city of Columbus is $35,000. So you're well under that median income. So
Yeah, because a lot of people don't even make $12,000, let alone that.
correct.
I mean, $35,000. That's
Correct.
like,
What I would love to see is a plan in place where there is an opportunity for those that are in poverty to get themselves in a position to make a living wage and purchase a home. Because land is something that no one can recreate. And we know from the history of this country that land is a commodity. Um, you can build generational wealth with land. You can take out lines of credit to, remodel your home, purchase a car, put your kids through their first year of college. There's a lot of power in home ownership. So I would like to see us move and focus somewhat on those who are interested in home ownership. There's tons of programs out there. The OSU Extension Center actually provides free counseling with HUD certified counselors. And when the young folks and the people that are interested in buying homes are completed with their training and their classes, they don't qualify for anything because everything is 150, 250, 330, um, thousands of dollars, and they're being turned down by banks because they don't make enough. But if you can pay $1,200 a month in rent, you can pay a mortgage in the city of Columbus. We just need to really, really concentrate on those communities and make sure that we're not gentrifying to the point that those that are in poverty are going to be the ones that are homeless.
but isn't that we're also not just gentrifying, but we're predatory lending and from banks and all that comes in at too?
So, we've declared racism. And when I say we, the city, the county, and the state have declared it a public health crisis. But if you're not addressing the very systems that are embedded in this racism, then it's just a declaration. We need to make sure that lenders, work with these folks that have more than qualified to purchase a home. Many people that have qualified have moved outside of this county. So we're not only losing tax dollars, we're losing students and we're losing families. And you can't justify one when you're losing the other. Um, so the banks really need to. I don't want you to lend to subpar credit worthy folks. But I do want you to look at the individuals that have the passion, desire, and the opportunity to make more wages, purchase that home, and be able to remodel it, whatever. There are loans out there that banks have where you can purchase a home, and as the work is done, those checks are cut directly to the contractor. So you're not in charge of any of those funds, and you can remodel an older home within this community. So I really feel, I'm trying to read those other notes. I just really feel like we need to concentrate not just on one thing, and that's rental, because a couple that gets married, or a single person that's living in a studio, they meet someone, they get married, they start to plan a family. Now that studio is no longer available to them. It may be close to their work, it may be close to the things they like to do as a couple, but realistically, they can no longer live in this city. How do we address that? Because we have lots of people that commute in, but we don't have a lot of people that actually live here and work here.
So, a couple people have been chiming in the comments.
It's not just the payment.
Yeah, John says it's not just the payment
Right.
you'll be making. Replying,
Right,
back
you'll
to
be
the
paying
comments
your
you've been making.
property taxes and your real estate taxes. Your real estate taxes and your insurance is all built into your mortgage now. Once upon a time, it was not. Those are all separate bills, but all of that is built in. And if you actually make an extra payment a year on your mortgage, you can knock 7 years off of your mortgage. So there are individuals that get bonuses and things of that nature that can put it directly towards the principal of their home and get their homes paid off sooner, just like with a car or anything else.
And he also says banks have a set standard. No matter who you are, the max is 80% LTV within a minimum of a 700 score, and the a federal HA and a federal SHB program should through FHA is the way to go. But I think the problem with that is most people, especially in that poverty number we began with talking about, they have nothing remotely near a 700 credit score. Their average credit score, if we're being real and keeping it 100, is maybe on a good note a 500, if that.
Right. I when I started my career in life, I worked at a financial institution. Most of these programs that you get into, if you're looking to become a homeowner, the first thing they do is pull your credit score. They work with you on the things that you need to clean up or fix. A big thing for a lot of people that live in poverty are medical expenses. One trip to the hospital can really knock you on your behind. If a car breaks down and now you have no mode of transportation to get kids where they need to be or even to work, a lot of things happen. But the program through OSU Extension does look at your credit. They do make sure that you have an acceptable score for a standard lender to lend to you. They're not sending you to subpar lenders.
So John is saying that they will take a credit score as low as 580 with 3%.
With
This
three.
federal
Right.
as and you'll get that's the interest rate 3% credit score as low as 580 for everybody that doesn't
Through
understand
FHA.
it.
Is that what he's saying? Through FHA?
Yep.
Yeah, you can. Which a lot of people don't know that you can use FHA, or there's just that education piece that I think that needs to be out there, where if you can pay $1,500 a month in rent, realistically, you probably can purchase a home. Let's get you in the position to be a homeowner, where you can build that generational wealth. And that's not just for African Americans. That 12% of Caucasian individuals also probably want to realize the American dream. I mean, when we talk about those things, everyone, no matter what party, talks about the American dream, your career, your home, your family, and you work and then you retire and you have these great experiences. That's not being realized all across the country, but it's definitely not being realized within the city in which I was born and raised.
She brought up another good point earlier, Breeza did, and she said, People will remain homeless if they don't get their ducks in a row and they don't quit relying on the government and state benefits unless necessary. I think that's a really good point there. Whether you're Republican or Democrat,
Mhm.
take the handout when you need, or I wouldn't even consider it a handout, but take the hand up when you need it. But take it as long as you need it and go out, get a job, try and do better for yourself and
Mhm.
not continue taking the benefits. But the downside to that, now that we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, is that you can't find a job. And if you do happen to find a job, you have to meet like all these different expectations and all of these different standards and things like that. And so that puts you right back at a square foot one
Yes.
in a lot of ways.
Oh, absolutely. And not only that, I've worked a little with the homeless population. Right within my community is the Homeless Family Center. So you have families that are one paycheck away from being in homelessness, whether someone lost their job, someone became ill, things happen, life happens. Um, those individuals are not just homeless by themselves, they have children with them. The Y does a great job in providing childcare services and getting them some services that they may not have acquired because they were employed. The issue with that is that there's also in the homeless camps lots and lots of mental illness. So we have to address not only the fact that they don't have a roof over their head, but we have to address what's going on with them, that they cannot sustain a roof, that they cannot sustain employment, and many of them won't even apply for benefits because you have to have an address. The mail has to go somewhere. There's a lot, again, there are those barriers there. So, I agree, there's some homeless that just want to be homeless, but there's a reason, and a lot of it has to do with mental illness.
So let's take a quick commercial break really quickly. And
Absolutely. I
we're
was trying to read his notes.
going to come right back, everybody. The Tiffany White Show's back after this.
Welcome to Cardwell Mobile Notary Service. I'm Leandra Cardwell. I run a full-service mobile notary company. We specialize in apostille, loan closings, structured settlements, and more. Wherever you are, I'll be there. Even in your home, I'll be there. At the hospital, I'll be there. Nursing homes, I'll be there. At the library, I'll be there. Coffee shops, you pick, and I'll be there. And yes, even remotely too, I'll be there. To submit a request on our website, don't forget to locate us on Facebook and give us a call at 614-999-0149, and I'll be there.
This is serious stuff.
And so we're back right now with the Tiffany White Show, and she's right. This is serious stuff. You heard us joking around with her on a commercial break,
Yes.
saying we got to get some more energy. But
I have the energy, but I think when we're talking about the needs of individuals, it's very serious. And we've met the needs of the people, the citizens, then we could get to the next level. If you meet people's basic needs, their housing, their shelter, and a way for them to thrive, and that's with employment. A lot of the issues that we're trying to put programming towards and put dollars towards would lessen. And I mean, those things may not ever go away. We'll always have crime, we always have, but the severity of the crime, the frequency of the crime would be a lot less if those things were in place, where parents could be home and not work 2 and 3 jobs, and their kids are kind of, unfortunately raising themselves. But how many $9 an hour jobs do you need to pay $1,500 rent? Quite a few, because you still have utilities and groceries that you have to provide. So we're going to segue over to safety, because that was another, last year was a very interesting year. We got a new chief, we got a new assistant chief, we've had some retirements happen. There was a negotiation with the FOP, and there's going to be some buyouts and some more retirements, early retirements occurring. We have a new inspector general for the Civilian Review Board. So a lot of things happened over 2021 that hopefully will be very fruitful in 2022. But safety has been a big concern. So The mayor has, and he has put dollars during this pandemic towards safety initiatives.
But did they work?
Did they work? Well, I mean, I guess it has. You have to really look at, were the crimes lessened at during the time that these programs were running? Because some programs ran on Saturdays only from 8 to noon or 9 to noon. The young folks were doing cleanups and things like that, and they were being compensated for their time.
Mm-hmm.
Others, like, there were community walks that were happening, community events that were occurring that talked about safety and how to be safe.
Now there were not to cut you off. There was something I saw today in the and Derek Russell's group, the Linden Stop the Violence
Stop the
group,
violence.
where one of the moms in Moms Demand Action, I believe her name is Teresa, she did up a graphic and things like that for the zip codes 43211 and 43219 here in the city. Where the walks happen, and it showed that over from in the 8 months that the walks took place, that the murder rate, even though it was at an all-time high for the city, that the murder rate for those zip code, if you take your wins smallly,
You have to take your small wins. Yeah.
The murder rate was down 40% in 19, and then 11 it was down like 33 or something like that.
Mhm.
And it was just a few, but you have to take your
I do think you have to take your wins where you have them. I mean, there were a lot of programs. I really and I know that Linden Stop the Violence was just one. There were several others that were going on. I think what our young people need first and foremost is that stability. If you know that you're not going to come home and there's an eviction notice on the door, if you're not going to come home and flip on the light switch and there's no lights, if you're not going to go to bed hungry, all of those things that we tried to provide people during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
that we've kind of scaled back on, and now you have to go out to get those things, where before we were bringing them into the communities and making it available to them.
So like another
It makes a
poor
difference.
people's let me
it
rephrase that. No,
it wasn't just poor people.
No.
that were coming and taking advantage of those things.
No, that's not what I was trying to say. I was going to say another poor people's campaign, but I wanted to reverse that back. So to continue what Dr. King was doing when he got assassinated, in a sense, is what we need to re-begin doing here in cities all across America, just like Columbus, because the high murder rate just isn't a Columbus problem. And
it's a nationwide. It's a nationwide problem.
Yeah.
I mean, but to do that, you have to find outlets for our youth.
Yeah.
Recreation centers, programming, there's a fee. Once upon a time, there wasn't a fee. Businesses need to put into those community rec councils so that if there are parents who want their kids to be a part of programming, they can say, okay, well, there's a scholarship for that. That fee is taken care of. Come and join us. There's all the little league football teams. There's fees attached. Now they want you to get state IDs. For each child, it's $20.
Right.
And you got to have all the information or you can't do it. So all of those things come into play. And then it's like, okay, bring snacks, do this, do that. Like, there's tons of things. If we had our businesses, when we always hear public private partnerships, but those don't just have to be with city government. They definitely should be with the communities in which they do business. If you're doing business here, it's not going to kill you to write $100 check a month or a $500 check a month. You're profitable for a reason.
And I mean, at least for the North Side last year, we ran down in like 4 weeks, like what, 10, 12, 15 grand?
Right. I mean, for the National Night Out. And it was a North Side event. It was a wonderful event. And we had businesses that you would not normally think that would donate to you. We're donating because they understand, okay, yes, we're profitable because the crime rate is high. Those are funerals and cemeteries. But we also understand that we're losing our young people. There's a generation lost with the number of homicides and things that are happening. That's a generation that's not going to be able to participate in paying taxes, a generation that's not going to participate in voicing their vote on election day. Those are individuals that aren't going to realize what it is to have a family or grandchildren, or even see, their grandparents live out, or their parents to live out their days. So, I feel like the organizations that were um proved some success. I mean, when those walks were happening, there were a lot of folks that came out, a lot of people interested. If they didn't come and walk with you, they at least came out on their porch to see what was going on. And they definitely came for the free hot dogs and hamburgers and chips and everything. Um, that's an opportunity where all the organizations that were there, because it wasn't just one organization, there were voter registration booths, there was harm reduction, there were things for folks that
Gun
were raising
laws, yeah.
families that were not their biological family. There were lots of services out there. Impact was out there doing things. Where you may be coming just to get a hot dog, but you may leave better off at the end of that event. And that's really the most important thing.
But when it comes to public safety now we really have a huge problem here in Columbus. 2/3 of the city budget has gone into public safety.
Yes.
$600+ million. We were told yesterday, and that's split between the fire department and the police department, because public health is only getting a little over $1 million, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and the city public health department is only getting a little over $1 million. But I
that's
won't.
true.
I won't go there. It's not my
No,
show.
we're not going to go through the budget tonight.
No, but but with the police department and public safety, what he failed to say is that with the buyout program happening and still taking, not the buyout program, yes, the buyout program, but the drop program still happening.
Drop is still happening. Yes.
And then you now have the buyout program for 100 police officers. But yet we did get an extra police academy class. But with these 3 now police academy classes, only a handful of them are going to be working here in Columbus. And so really is pouring all this money into public safety even worth it? So
I was part of the mayor's safety commission. We spent 22 months, and we still have meetings here and there with updates on recommendations. And when you're doing contract negotiations, that was one of the things that they negotiated. There were some wins that we got, which was the Civilian Review Board. But then there were those that are retiring, because we have retirements every year. I'm also on minority recruiting for police and fire. But we also had the buyout program, where you could leave earlier than your drop time if necessary. So I feel I'm torn, because I think that there are some officers that definitely probably are ready to hang it up for whatever reason. Like, everyone gets burnt out in their job over time. Some have injuries, some have ailments, they're losing family members. There's a lot of things happening.
But we're losing losing bureaus, as they call them, or divisions within CPD, like the community liaison.
Right. So, this is where I'm at, because any other position in the world that you have after you've done your service, no one's fussing about you retiring. If you want to retire, you want to leave early, that's great. But I guess my bigger concern, and I voiced this, was how are we vetting those individuals that are already APATA certified with Columbus, or already police officers in the state of Ohio, that now want to, in essence, transfer to Columbus. They'll still have to go through Columbus's training, but how are we vetting them? And the only thing that comes to mind is what happened in Cleveland, Ohio. Like, we don't want to have that occur here in Columbus, where there is an officer who had a tendency and then went to Cleveland's police department with those same tendencies, and a child was shot in a park playing with a toy gun. Absolutely. We don't want that type of thing. So I feel very strongly that our vetting process for that should be, if you're transferring here, we need your entire work history as an officer within that division. Now, I know that things come out of files. There's negotiated instances where things are pulled from your file and no one knows that that incident occurred. We have to be very careful because we don't need any other police involved shootings. We don't. I don't think that we eh, can withstand something like that.
Here, I believe John is making a really good point here where he says, I don't blame police officers in Columbus for leaving the force.
Yeah, I don't either, John.
Look at the mayor, Andy, and city council and how they basically called police officers the enemy of society just to keep their jobs. While I want to say two things, if I might, about that statement. Number one,
Give developer. Does that say $200 million in developer subsidies?
yeah, we could tackle that in a
Yeah.
second. That's
Is that
yeah.
his police? Yeah, okay, that's with his police officer. Okay.
Yeah. So what John was saying right there, that he doesn't blame the officers for wanting to leave. I will say this, that there are good police officers and bad police officers, and majority of them are good. And I come from a family of blue. A lot of my family members are police officers. And a majority of them are good, never pull their weapon or anything like that. And I've taken a numerous of ride-alongs as well in other departments, not here in Columbus yet. But what I will say in Columbus is that everybody should read Lieutenant Melissa McFadden's book, Between the Thin Blue Line. And in her book, she details a lot about all of the corruption and things within CPD that is going on, that is still going on in a lot of ways. The good old boys society, in a sense, and how, and it's very interesting that last year around this time, Deputy Police Chief Jennifer Knight was up for her 1 year term to become a permanent deputy chief. And I wrote an article calling her the most racist officer within the division of CPD. And I backed it up and had facts and all about that, like you're supposed to do. And then it's funny how just a few months later, once the new chief, police chief Elaine Bryan, is here, we find out that she didn't come for a drug exam because it looked to be and appeared to be that she was on drugs.
Well, so one of the things that I definitely push for, and I believe is happening now, is if there's any type of use of force, there will be a drug test administered. Officers are under lots and lots of pressure. I can say that because I did a ride along and I was like, I think I need mental health services. You do this every day. So I give kudos to those, but just like any other organization, we can name plenty of businesses that have had bad players. The difference with being an officer is your decision can be someone's life. So I take that very seriously, but there are great, I mean, I've been surrounded and have enjoyed great officers in my community. Were there some that were not the greatest? Absolutely. But that one or two don't even pale in comparison to the ones that are doing really, really great work. So yeah, I would never begrudge anyone for leaving, but I guess my concern is we need to, as a community, be reaching our young folks and asking them, what does safety mean to you? What does law enforcement look like to you? Or being a firefighter is a very noble position, just like being an officer. I really feel that, I have he just turned 10-year-old grandson. And since he was 6, he said he wants to be a police officer. So I try to surround him around people that can show him what good policing looks like. Will there be barriers for him? Potentially, but hopefully not. I always tell the officers, please tell him he's got to listen in school. He's got to do all the things he needs to do. But for the kids that want to go into those careers, where are the mentors that they can see themselves in that role or that position? Because the other thing that the city has wanted to do for a long time is make sure that our safety divisions reflect the community. And we're a very diverse city. You know, we
But
had our
one of
first
the
Somali
things,
officer.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
But with it reflecting the community, it like really doesn't, because I believe it's like 60% of the force, they don't even live in the city of Columbus. They live.
but you don't. So the state has ruled that you cannot constitutionally uh, put in place parameters that you must live within the city limits to work.
No, no,
And so
and I agree with that. But how can you say you want a police department
and fire
and
department.
department to resemble the community in which it serves when
Well, that's
you haven't walked a mile in their shoes? You only work in their shoes. You
so
don't live.
a part of their so we were able to have when they leave the academy, they're on probation for 1 year. Um, there are things that are in place where they're going to get to know the communities in which they're going to be patrolling, which I think is great. But again, you know, the example of my grandson, where are those mentors to say, okay, you'll be going to middle school in 2 years. These are the things you need to be doing to make sure that you A, stay out of trouble, B, maintain your grades, C, you know, do this, that, and the other. The other thing is you can't apply for the police force until you're 20. So what do we do with those young people during that gap period between graduation and the age of 20?
Sure.
And I mean, there's new cadet programs. There's a lot of other things. And not only that, but even if you were an actual employee within the safety division, maybe being a police officer isn't what you want to do. Maybe there's something else within the realm of safety. But, you know, immersing our young folks in those things, not responding to a fight, not being at a football game or being inside of your school, you know, that's not the day in the life of a trust me, when I was
Right.
out, that's not the day in the life of a police officer. But I just think that, you know, they're looking at creative ways to connect with community. And it was really strong over the summer. I mean,
Yeah,
the
with
winter
Starfish
months.
assignment with Nicole over there, who's the founder of that. They do a really good job of getting back in the community. They
Yes.
are a nonprofit for police officers and first responders,
Yeah.
and I'm
So there's some great, you know, outreach that has been happening, but the outreach should not just be an event where we're giving away free food.
right.
That's just Tiffany's opinion, and it's my show, so I can have it. Um, it needs to be more than that. You know, when I was a kid, we could wave at the police officer, they stop if they had time and they talk to you. The fire department did the same thing, you know,
Yeah.
or they honk or, you know, something to like we see you, you know, we're in your neighborhood, your town. But really, most kids' experiences are what they see on TV now, what they hear when they're in adult settings sometimes.
Mhm.
And the games that they play. You know what I mean? Like there was a TikTok challenge to like do all of these things, like, you know, smack a teacher on the butt. That's a crime. And there were
Yes.
kids that were charged. Like there's certain things, like there's decisions that if there were people in place to say, hey, I know that I heard about that TikTok challenge. That's funny, but you know, I might have to arrest you for that. And you could be joking, but being very serious, like this
Shit,
is
if I'm your
serious.
teacher, I'm gonna get arrested because I'm gonna knock the
Well,
hell out of you.
I mean,
Shit.
but that was one. Do you know what I mean? There
Yeah.
were tearing down, you know, the sinks and the
Mhm.
paper towel holders and all those things. And in Tennessee, they actually charge students.
Mhm.
Like, so, you know, so you have to be very careful with our young people. But I also think that when there's ones that are very, very interested, you make sure that you get them in front of those individuals so that they can shadow them, they can ask them questions, and they'll ask. I mean, kids will come up with some crazy stuff
Yes.
and ask them questions about things. And I mean, and like you said, there are some officers who have never even
Mhm.
discharged their weapon. You know, they've gone through their whole career and have not done it, but that's not what is portrayed.
No,
Even when
it's
there's an
not.
incident
Yeah.
that occurs, we want to.
Like I do think we need to give credit to those officers on that who took that I71 shooting call last Friday, because they did do a hell of a job. A guy with a mental illness was shooting up the freeway, and he happened to be black. with a mental illness. Let me repeat this again. And they did not kill him. They shot him and they injured him in his leg, and he's
Right.
still alive.
They disarmed him.
Now, that didn't happen a week prior to that one on the east side on Livingston and Barnett, when another black guy got shot and killed for no pay. That didn't happen right there. But what needs to happen is, unless, and I guess there's no way to even determine this. I'm not making excuses for officers or anything like
Right,
this.
no.
There's no way to determine the level of threat when you see a gun, but evidently there is a way to determine the level of threat. As we seen last Friday, at least thousands of cars and people going through at like 80 miles per hour. I go through, I'm not gonna lie, at like 90 miles per hour on
It is
I-71
70 on the
right?
freeway.
Right. Right. So I could imagine what people are doing, and then seeing the cell phone videos, and you see a guy running up the freeway shooting,
Yeah.
and officers following behind him, and then they finally shoot. No wonder it wasn't a lot worse with accidents
Absolutely.
and things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. And he's still living to tell about it and hopefully to get help. So we do
Absolutely.
need to thank them. I know I'm critical of CPD a lot of times, but
Yeah.
my philosophy is, when you do good, I'm going to talk about you. When you do bad,
Absolutely.
I'm going to talk about you. Either way, I'm
Absolutely.
going to talk about you.
Absolutely. So there's going to be there's like some diversion things that the mayor spoke of. I think they're still going to put funding into safety initiatives. You know, there's some great organizations out there that are addressing gun violence,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of other violence that is happening as well.
Right.
So I think we just need to address violence as a whole, and address crime as a whole, um, and support those organizations. That's another reason why I am happy to be able to do a show like this, because I can get information out to the community of events and happenings and things that are going on. Everything is not going to be for you, but sometimes there's things that you don't find out about until you see it on Facebook. And then those that sometimes I need a break from social media. So sometimes I don't see those things. Um, but if you have events or anything that are coming up and you want us to get that word out to the community to support you, or if you need support from us, I'm all over the city doing events and things of that nature. You can email me at tiffany.white@unbossed.live. And that is the best way, because you can send your flyers, your literature, whatever, and I can let people know. Also, I'm going to reach out to civic organizations and area commissions, because the best way to be informed is to be engaged. And the best way to be engaged is for someone to empower you with that information. And then it's up to you to take the next step. But if you don't know how to access, that's what I feel like many media outlets should be doing. And so I'm glad that I have this opportunity to do this. Um, you know, Future Ready is working with the city on a plan to open the Hilltop Learning Center. That's going to be for our pre-K kids. I think that's awesome. I would love to see something like that on every side of town, because when you're in pre-K, transportation is not provided. So we want to make sure that we're not only looking out for the livelihoods and lives of our babies, but making sure that the parents aren't putting themselves in a position where they're not going to be able to continue their children being able to get the resources and educational opportunities out there. What else was there,
So
Devontae? That was
what can we expect on Monday on your show?
Monday on my show.
At 7:00, since your show's on Mondays at 7.
So my show is Mondays at 7. What'll be on my show will be, I'm going to bring, I think, unique individuals that have done some really cool things with young people, as well as folks that have programs out there that you may be interested in, may not. I take ideas. That's not a big deal. But I want to address really a lot of things with our youth, but I also don't want to leave our seniors out, because I believe that our seniors are very impactful and essential, and they're our teachers. We learn from those that have been there, done that. And current events, just things that are happening. So like this state of the city address, we talked about the gun safety. We talked about the governor signing the bill. Those are things that it may be a highlight on your phone. You may or may not get to watch the news. Sometimes when you get home, you start dinner, it could be in the background. You're not really paying attention to it. I'm that 7 o'clock. I'm like, what is it? Jeopardy that's on at 7.
Yeah, Jeopardy.
Now that,
Yeah, and Alex not
Jeopardy
even
is
on,
different.
right?
I don't even watch it anymore. So you can tune in to me. And again, I want to encourage, empower, and inspire all of the citizens of Columbus to not only know what's happening in their neighborhood, but what's happening, who's making the decisions, and how it's going to impact your everyday. I'll probably be talking about this upcoming primary, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of things happening, a lot of moving pieces, and hopefully we will have a primary May 3rd. But that's one of the big things we're going to talk about, because voter registration is very important right now, because the deadline is approaching for you to register.
Hopefully we do have a primary. We will know later today. Actually, no, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow, because they had
which is
to,
St. Patrick's Day, so we may or may not know.
right? Because a couple Supreme Court justices are Irish.
Right, we may or may not know, but at the end of the day, we'll not only that, but I like to talk to some of the candidates, because the big thing when we did the highlights and the real-time election results last November, there were people that were who won races that no one had heard of. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very important. It's not a party affiliated thing. There. All sides will be here that are willing to come. But I really think it's important to know who the individual is, what they stand for, and if I vote for you, is this going to make my life, my children's life, my parents' life a little bit better than it is today? So definitely probably be talking about what's happening with this primary on Monday.
All right. Anything else?
No, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. Again, if you want to send anything else, please feel free to email me. And I will respond. If you have events, get those out there to me, and I will make sure to announce them. Thank you, and have a great evening.
All right, everybody. That was the Tiffany White Show. I am peddling the show today from behind the scenes, so I'm not coming on camera, but support local Black-owned media. You can support us by giving on Cash App at $ the Unbossed Fan Club, or by going to paypal.me / the Unbossed Fan Club. And we will have an address for you on Monday that you can send your checks to, because I know a lot of you love to send in your checks and money orders, and we do take those as well. We are asking 20,000 of our fans to give a minimum of $50 a year, and with that'll help get us to that $1 million a year, so we could continue to have shows like the Tiffany White Show and have conversations just like this. So look, it doesn't get any better than this. So keep it locked, keep it loaded right here on Unbossed. And we are launching with brand new shows, a full slate of programming beginning this coming Monday on March the 21st. At 6 p.m. So keep it locked right here for that first show, and then keep it locked again. Just stay locked right through the evening, because you got Tiffany's show at 7, and then you got the nightly news show from 9 to 11, and then another show in that 8 o'clock hour that I should know. So it doesn't get any better than this. Black Talk is our stories, our voices, by us, for us. So that's going to do it for us today. We'll see you on Monday, everybody.